Hello, I'm Civic Journalism Senior Fellow Liz Fabian at the Center for Collaborative Journalism at Mercer University. During this campaign season, we are interviewing the candidates for Macon Water Authority, including the chairman post and District 1. We welcome today Gary Bechtel, who is one of the candidates for the Macon Water Authority chairman position. Mr. Bechtel, tell us a little bit about yourself, your background, and what it is you want the voters to know about you.
Thank you for having me in this morning, Liz. I am a resident of Macon-Bibb County, lived here my entire life. My wife has lived here her entire life. My children grew up here. They attended public school. And my goal, and has been for years, is to try to make Macon of Bibb County a better place. And I try to do that through public service. I've served on the Bibb County School Board, the County Commission. I'm currently serving on the Macon-Bibb County Planning and Zoning. Which really, of all the posts I've served, that's one of the more trying, and but I serve with a great group, and we have a big responsibility as it relates to land use and doing the right thing in Bibb County. So I've enjoyed that immensely. The mayor, Lester Miller, appointed me to that in '21. I've enjoyed it, and I know there's a lot of things going on that you report on that deal with the Macon-Bibb County Planning and Zoning Commission. I am in commercial real estate and have been doing that since 2013. I was a previous banker and served in a number of positions with Atlantic Southern Bank and Certus, and left that to be a commercial realtor with Bob Lewis and Associates in 2013. So the timing has been good, the market's been good, and I've had a fun working with Bob and his staff, and it's been a lot of fun. Macon Water Authority is one of the most important resources for Macon-Bibb, not only in terms of providing clean water and reliable sewer service, but it also in terms of economic development. It works hand in hand with the Industrial Authority and the state in terms of attracting employers to Bibb County to provide jobs, investment, and growth to our community. So the Water Authority is a very essential part of that. In addition, they run an organization that's roughly $1 billion organization as relates to their investment, the fees for services, and now we're getting into, the authority is getting into stormwater management, which is an essential part of their effort to try to keep our community safe, prevent flooding, and clean the water that comes out of from rainstorms and things as it goes into the river and our streams. So it's an essential piece of the effort by the Macon Water Authority to try to provide safe, clean, and efficient services to Macon and Bibb County.
You hinted on it a little bit, but
Yeah.
Why is it that you want to serve as chairman of the Macon Water Authority?
It's a crucial time in the history of the Water Authority. The current chairman, Sam Hart, is choosing not to run. They've had a history of really good leaders at the Water Authority, Frank Amerson, Dr. Godsey, and Sam over the last 8 years. I think I can provide the leadership to carry on and provide the leadership with the board to do the projects that are necessary and communicate with the public, the ratepayers, and our economic development partners so that we can continue to, the authority can continue to maintain a presence in the community and provide valuable service. I've had the experience necessary. I've worked with government leaders. I've provided leadership in other capacities where I've served in elected office, and I think my experience and my business experience lend a lot to this position. And I encourage the voters to look at my history and look at my record and pull the lever for me on May 24th.
Should the Macon Water Authority have taken on stormwater management, and why?
I believe they should have. The county has had responsibility for that for years and have really not had the resources or the desire to do the necessary work. There's been bits and pieces done over the years. A lot of work's been done downtown as relates to the stormwater capacity downtown. That is old infrastructure. It's brick and stone, and the county did some work down there, but it didn't really have the resources to spread out and do it across the county. As we saw in the last few weeks, the flooding in South Bibb just demonstrates that we do not have the infrastructure necessary to protect all our communities from stormwater and the impact that it can have on houses and land of our citizens in Bibb County.
Now, considering the reaction that the authority has gotten from some business owners and from pastors and even from ratepayers, how would you explain the role of stormwater management and the need to charge for it?
Well, it's let me back up a little bit. The authority voted to take this on, I believe, in 2019, 2020, in an agreement with Bibb County. There was some money put in the SPLOST in 2016 that was to be allocated for stormwater to try to prime the pump as it relates to having the money available to do projects and to especially things that pop up with sinkholes and things like that. And it's basically an emergency fund. In addition, but the federal government and the state government has for years pushed communities like ours to clean up the water going into the river, Omogi River, as well as some of our other streams. So it's been an effort by the federal government to make certain that what is dumped in the stream as it relates to trash and everything that comes from stormwater and things like that, to clean it up. You may have seen times after a big rainstorm years ago when you could basically see what people ate on Friday and Saturday floating down the river. We've got to do a better job in terms of cleaning up what goes into our streams and rivers. And the authority, I believe, has the capacity, they have the resources, they have the administrative talent necessary to do this in a manner that is fair to those that are called upon to pay the rates, as well as do the work necessary to improve the system across Bibb County so that those that do pay can see some evidence of work and see some improvement in how stormwater is dispensed and how when the water goes into the river it's cleaner and we get a better the federal government and the state treat us better in terms of EPD and the environmental impact.
What do you think is the biggest challenge facing the authority, and how would you solve it?
The biggest challenge right now is to make certain that the authority communicates what it's going to do in terms of stormwater as relates to they have to be transparent in terms of the money they collect, the program of work going forward each and every year as relates to what we will do as relates to spending those dollars that are collected. Now, the priority right now, I believe, is South Bibb, because you may have seen all the video and everything. I've been down in South Bibb. I've walked around. I've talked to a lot of people. I've seen some of the impact of the water. It didn't happen 3, 4, 5 years ago, but as more development comes and it pushes more water downstream and impacts those that have been out there for a number of years. When many of those homes were built in the 60s and the 70s, stormwater really was not a concern of the developers. You had ditches and you had creeks and things like that. There needs to be more infrastructure and there needs to be a better plan on how we deal with South Bibb. And I've had conversations with the elected officials in Bibb County as relates to how we're going to spend the money necessary and how we're going to gain the money necessary to have a comprehensive plan to solve the problem of flooding in South Bibb. And that, I think, is the priority. And that's one of the biggest challenges for Macon Water Authority in the next few years, is solving those problems and doing what's necessary to prove to the public that the money they're paying for stormwater utility is going to be spent in a reasonable and accountable fashion.
And what new idea, policy, or other change would you advocate for if you were elected as chairman?
Well, at this point, I think that besides the transparency and how we treat stormwater and the money that the authority collects from the ratepayers, is that we need to expand our sewer system. and that's going to be a 3 to 5 year effort, and that is a priority. And a second priority for Macon-Bibb County. Our sewer system is one that is necessary for industrial use. It's for growth in the community, single family growth, and things of that nature. So we are in a position where we need to expand that, and I think that's a policy that any person that occupies this office is going to have to take and provide leadership to make certain that's done in a timely manner, so that our community is not put at a disadvantage because we are at capacity with our sewer system.
Now, some people in this community may associate your name with the disgraced Superintendent Romaine Dolliman, since you were the school board president when he came on. So what would you tell voters who might have concerns or still, associate you with that past experience?
It's been 12 years since I left. It's been 10 years since I left the school district. And in the interim, Dr. Curtis Jones has done an amazing job with this system. And the leadership that came after me stepped up, did what was right as relates to the previous superintendent, and hired a superintendent that is really done a really good job as it relates to building the foundation for the education of students in this community. And that's, but that's in the past. And I did not vote for the superintendent. In fact, I sued him and fought extra hard to rid him of that position.
So anything else that you'd like to tell the voters about that chapter if they have any reluctance?
No, I mean, that was 10 years ago. I was elected to the commission in 12 and served for 6 years, ran for legislature in 2018, lost to Dale Washburn, who's now supporting me in this position. And So I had a gentleman at a fundraiser the other night tell me how proud he was of my service on the school board as well as on the county commission. So I think a lot of people think that even though we went through a difficult time, I proved that I was willing to stand up for what the voters thought was right, and worked hard to eliminate that disgrace spot as relates to the community.
Now, you have been in public service for a long time, so do you think that there's anything that the public doesn't really understand about you?
No. I mean, I think I've been transparent in everything I want to do. I'm a conservative as relates to fiscal matters. The authority has a lot of resources, collects a lot of money from our ratepayers and everything, and I think that people can trust me to make certain that it's accounted for, and that we do what's necessary to make certain that those dollars that we do collect from ratepayers and those who stormwater is going to spend in a manner that is that people will be proud of, and we'll be transparent in everything that we do, because that's the way I've done it throughout my service on the school board and the county commission.
So what makes you the best candidate in this race? And what would you tell voters about why they should choose you over your opponents?
Well, I've got, the Water Authority is a resource that has a large staff. It is one that you have a 7-person authority, and the chair acts as the moderator and sets the agenda and deals directly with the executive director of the Macon Water Authority. And I think that people are looking for somebody that has experience, looking for somebody that has business experience, has economic development experience, and has a record of integrity. I've never been accused of anything as relates to my public service. I've had a clean record. I will continue to do that. I'm not in it for personal aggrandizement or money. I'm doing it because this is my community. and I want it to grow. I want it to be a place where people want to come here and have the confidence they're going to have the services at a reasonable rate that they need to have to function and run their business and run their home and be safe that water and sewer will be available when they need it.
All right, thank you, Mr. Bechtel, for joining us.
Thank you, Liz. I appreciate it, and look forward to taking on this responsibility in January of 2024. Thank you.
And now we're joined by Macon Water Authority Chairman candidate Tom Ellington. Thank you so much for joining us today. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself, your background, and what it is that you think is most important for voters to know about you?
Sure. So I have been a Macon resident since 2004. I came here to teach at Wesleyan College, which is the job that I still do today. I served 2 terms on the Macon City Council just prior to consolidation, chairing the Appropriations Committee in that 2nd term, so I've done a lot with finance. And I've been active in the community since then, serving on a number of boards, including the Macon-Bibb County Land Bank Authority. In 2019, 2020, I took a sabbatical, went to Harvard, and did a Master in Public Administration degree at the Kennedy School. And while I was there, I actually worked with groups in Flint, Michigan, who were helping with recovery from the water crisis there. So I feel like I have the leadership background, I have the experience, I have the financial knowledge, and basically the entire package necessary to lead an organization like the Macon Water Authority.
And you kind of segued right into my next question. So why is it that you do want to serve as chairman of the authority?
Well, the authority has some enormous challenges ahead, and it's going to take strong leadership to meet those challenges. And I feel like I'm the person who can provide that leadership. So in some ways, MWA has some great foundations. So the water system itself with the water treatment plant that was built after the 1994 flood, that's a great strength of the organization. But we also have aging infrastructure. The MWA has taken over the stormwater management system, and parts of that are over 100 years old. The way the stormwater management program was rolled out has been not great. I think Dwight Jones talked about that at Lake Wildwood. And so that needs revisiting to make sure that that's fair, that's transparent. But that's not the only infrastructure issue we have to deal with. If it were, that would be plenty. But we also have a sanitary sewer system that has major spills from time to time. And we're going to need to look at what we can do about that. So on October 6th of last year, there were actually 6 major sewage spills in one day. And you probably remember October 6th, although you may not have marked that date in your mind, because basically the bottom fell out of the sky and there were inches and inches of rain. That infiltrated the sanitary sewer system and just overwhelmed it in 6 locations. It was basically above peak capacity with that rainwater coming in. So that got handled for that day. But we can't count on October 6th being an anomaly. We're in an age where we're going to have more and more severe weather events, and we need to basically future-proof the system.
Should the Macon Water Authority have taken over stormwater management, and why?
Somebody has to do it. And a lot of times in municipal governments, it gets neglected because you can ignore stormwater for a while until it forces you not to ignore it. And when somebody's basement doesn't flood when it rains one day, nobody thinks, oh man, somebody's doing a great job. So if the system works well, it's kind of invisible. But it also, stormwater management fits in with the rest of MWA's mission because it has a lot to do with water quality. When we're drawing from the Okmulgee, drawing water up to the reservoir, if that river's too silted up, that's a problem. And so it fits in neatly with the rest of MWA's mission, I think. And placing it there ensures that it's not going to be neglected.
Now, considering you mentioned Lake Wildwood meeting, and there's been some kind of backlash to the authority in some areas from pastors and business owners, industrial representatives, and even ratepayers about the stormwater management. So how would you explain that to the ratepayers and why the fees are necessary for the service?
Well, I think that we need to revisit how the fees are structured. And what I've seen is other water utilities that have rolled out stormwater management fees frequently have to go back and take a second crack at getting it right. I've heard from pastors who are getting hundreds of dollars in billing for small churches just based on their impervious surface area. And what they're saying is that this is potentially an existential threat for them. You know, the point of the fee is to fund the system. The point of the fee is not to cause pain and force institutions into insolvency. So I've certainly heard individual homeowners who are unhappy with the $4.99 a month, but I think the largest pain is being felt by churches and some nonprofits. So we have to revisit how that's structured, what kinds of exemptions are available, and how much those exemptions are. There's a lot of creative things you can do with things like putting in rain gardens and other mitigation factors in order to basically cut people a break on those fees.
You mentioned some of the issues that the authority is facing, but what do you think the biggest challenge is, and how would you solve that?
I think the biggest challenge is aging infrastructure, although staffing is a close second behind that. You know, MWA is competing with a lot of other institutions in a labor market where people have choices about where to work. And you want people who are smart, who are well qualified, who know what they're doing to do those jobs. So that's an issue, but we have literally hundreds of millions of dollars in infrastructure work that's been identified that needs to be done. Now that can't all be done at once. If you gave us a bank account with $1 billion in it tomorrow, it's not like we could just start digging and get everything fixed this year. So a lot of that work is going to involve identifying most likely failure points, prioritizing them, and basically staging the work in a way that's logical and causes the least disruption to people's lives.
Now, what new idea or policy or change would you advocate for on the authority if you're elected?
Well, one thing that's very specific that I would look at based on work that other water utilities are doing is using AI machine learning to analyze our systems and basically try to identify likely failure points. Other places have had success with that. And if you do that well, you avoid failures and you also save money because it's a lot easier to be preventive than to be reactive.
Now, as part of our research on the candidates, we've been doing background checks and such, and as of April 19th, the Macon and Bibb County Tax Commissioner's website shows that you owe nearly $1,500 in back taxes. And although your property tax is current, it shows that you have not paid the solid waste fees for 2020, 2021, and this year. Can you explain that?
I will get with them, but that's the first that I'm hearing about that, and I am getting my mail regularly. I have checks where I have paid the $300, so I think that's a miscommunication on their part. And certainly, the property tax comes straight out of escrow. I've got a mortgage on that, but I pay my bills when they come.
Sure. This is not the property tax per se, but it's that solid waste
fee. Right, no, I understand.
So could that have been when you were on your sabbatical possibly, or something you just need to check into?
It's something I need to check into, and $1,500 is a lot because that's what, a $300 yearly fee?
It shows that, it shows as back taxes, but I checked with them and they said that, there's a difference in the solid waste and the property taxes,
right,
which you are current on.
Right.
So, okay, we'll check on that. And
that would be 5 years, and I certainly have not gone 5 years without writing that check. It pains me every time because I thought the monthly system was better, but
sure,
but no, that's incorrect.
Okay, all right, and you've been in public life
yes,
a while, so what do you think that the public doesn't know or understand about you at this point?
I've been in public life for a while, but I have not been very much in the spotlight lately, so I think that a lot of the work that I've done is kind of under the radar. Being on the Land Bank Authority is not the position of greatest prominence. Some people follow that very closely, but other people aren't going to think about that at all. What I hope people know about me is that I'm committed to service, and I'm committed not just in holding formal positions, but in getting together with people, talking to them in their neighborhoods, doing work with them. I was at a neighborhood cleanup a few weeks ago, and one thing that I've learned in public life is that there are a ton of people who don't necessarily hold a formal position, but do a lot of good. And this community would be far, far poorer and much worse off if they weren't doing the work that they're doing. So anything I can do to support that, I'm committed to, because I enjoy it and I think it's valuable.
And what makes you the best candidate in this race? And tell the voters why they should choose you over your opponents.
Well, I think that I have the experience as a leader. I have experience with bringing people together who are not necessarily in congruence politically. So I'm a bridge builder and a coalition maker. I have the financial experience that's necessary for a large, complex organization like the Macon Water Authority. And I have some experience working specifically with water, with that issue that I talked about in Flint. I was on the ground in Flint in 2019, which is after the worst of the crisis. But I came to appreciate how much these utilities mean for community. So when we're talking about the Water Authority, it's economic development, it's public health, but it's also community. And what I saw in Flint is the aftermath of what happens when that goes away. So you can replace pipes if you have money. That's relatively trivial, but rebuilding trust after that's been broken, that is extraordinarily difficult.
Well, thank you, Mr. Ellington, for joining us.
Thank you so much.
We have an update for you on the question we asked Tom Ellington concerning him being nearly $1,500 in arrears in his taxes. Well, he had it cleared up within a couple of hours of our interview. It turns out it was a clerical error. He was actually being billed solid waste fees for 4 units instead of 1. And we're continuing our interview with the Macon Water Authority candidates, and now we're moving on to District 1 incumbent Dr. Anisa Jones Aiken. Thank you so much for joining us. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself and your background and what you think it is most important for the voters to know about you?
Awesome. Well, thank you. Thank you for inviting me today. And my name is Dr. Anisa Jones Aiken. I am a board certified chiropractor. I'm also a best-selling author, and I have the pleasure of being an international speaker. But my best thing that I've done in the last 5 years is been voted as the District 1 representative for the Macon Water Authority, where I get an opportunity each day to give back to the community, which has given so much to me. I would not be who I am today if it was not for the community support of Macon-Bibb County. And so I do and serve with lots of pride the District 1 as well as all of Macon-Bibb County, to make certain that not only that you get the clean water, sewer, and now stormwater that you deserve, but to make sure that life gets a whole lot easier for those that actually provide those services for us, those wonderful employees at the Macon Water Authority as well.
So you grew up around here and everything?
I did. I am from Macon. Born and raised here. I grew up on Short Street, which is right in Fort Hill. And I had an opportunity as a small child just to kind of see things work a little bit differently. And I knew that that's what I wanted for myself, was to do more. And the only way that you can really see a city progressively get to a place where you want it to be, you got to get your hands dirty, which means you got to get out there, you got to serve, and serve willingly and significantly.
So why is it that you want to serve again on the Macon Water Authority?
Sure. When I initially thought about this position, it was really to increase economic development here in Macon-Bibb County. I know that, everybody always says that, Macon has this or Macon has that as a respect to crime. But my thing is that I think Macon has a poverty issue. And if we can get more lucrative businesses to come here to our city, now we have more livable wages that folks can have for jobs. And now we can increase their capacity, and that could be for education, capacity for growth with their family, capacity for health care. All of those things changes when you have the money to be able to afford certain things. So one of my reasons for wanting to be a member of the Water Authority Board was so that we could be an attractive as it relates to our water capacity to bring those type of industries to the Macon-Bibb County area.
Do you think that the Macon Water Authority should have taken over the stormwater management, and why?
I have mixed emotions about that. I'll tell you that initially when it came to us, I was one of the members that was on the fence about it because I felt like, we were going to inherit something that wasn't working as it should be. A word that comes to mind is deplorable because that's the conditions that it was in. And I knew that as a ratepayer, most people would not be understanding of that type of position that we would be in as inheriting it. They want results, they want resolutions, they want it done, and they want it done quickly. And unfortunately, when you're assuming over something from another place, you got to do your due diligence. We got to figure out what the problem is. That takes time, investments of money. And then once you figure out what the problem is, now you got to tier it on how you take care of it. This is going to be, we're going to start with the things that are most emergency state first, and then it kind of trickles down from that. And I also know that, as ratepayers, they're like, okay, well, what about all the money that was supposed to had already gone into maintaining this type of infrastructure over the years? We're getting questions like that every day. But unfortunately, because we weren't over it at that time, whatever they did with those funds, we really don't know it, and we can't account for that. We can only account for our position today, and that is that we thought that it was the best decision for the citizens of Macon-Bibb, including myself, that a company that already has been tried and true on taking care of our water, taking care of our sewage in an award-winning manner, was the only option to get our storm water to that same type of level. And I'll tell you this, Liz, is that unfortunately, seeing it in its glory, both of us won't be here to see that. But what we will be able to leave is a legacy for our children and our children's children to know that as they grow up in this city, that we did the right thing. We did the right thing in 2020. We did the right thing in 2021. And we're doing the right thing today, making it a better, feasible city where people are safe and people are healthy when that water comes out of the sky.
Y'all made the decision not to bill anybody for a year. So when
Right.
people started getting billing this year, I know that y'all have heard from pastors and business owners and industries and ratepayers.
Right.
So how do you explain the role of stormwater management and the reason why people have to pay money?
Yeah, it's a community issue, and I think most people don't really see it that way. They see it more as, oh, that's the thing that the city should do for us to make sure, that things are done in a right, I guess. But really, it's a responsibility of us all. We all are laying some type of imprint on the world, and the things that we do, the way that our buildings are designed, has an immediate effect on how that water flows back to the Muggy River. And so if we don't have well-built easements, built inlays in our homes, it could cause us to have issues with things like flooding with stormwater. And so how do you pay for that? How do you make sure that there is a wonderful flow of water from your property back to the river? Is that we have to have the proper infrastructure in place for that. Some communities, and I can only talk about some that I've seen myself, and I'm going to share with you some of the urgencies of South Macon. Unfortunately, when they started building out there, Liz, it was country land. It was a whole lot of grass, not a whole lot of pavement or paved roads like we have today. And so what happened is people were allowed to build on those properties, and no one was thinking futuristic of the design of that community and how it was going to progressively grow. And so because no one had the forethought to say, let's have stormwater infrastructure that's going to be robust enough to take care of this industry that's growing out there, you're having families now that are having to have the brunt of water coming back up into their homes. And so we have labeled it as an emergency situation. We are taking the initiative to do what needs to be done for those families out there so that they aren't having the issues that they're having right now. But we do need is patience, because it takes time and it takes revenue to be able to do all of those things.
What do you think is the biggest challenge that the authority faces, and how would you solve it?
As it relates to stormwater
Or anything. It can be stormwater or whatever. What do you think is the big challenge for the authority?
I think our biggest challenge right now, if we're going to just keep it focused on storm water, is making sure that we are doing enough to make sure that our ratepayers really understand why it's necessary for us as a collective to have this burden and pay for it. I do know that when we did make the decision to wait and hold off a whole year before we started charging the community for it, that was the reason why we did that. I was the one that came up with that whole entire thought process of, listen, if we're gonna save our ratepayers a whole year of paying a rate, we need to be using that entire year as an opportunity to let them know what's coming, why we have to do it this way, and what the conditions of the infrastructure was before we assumed the responsibility. And I will tell you, I have to take responsibility just like the rest of the members that are currently serving. A lot of stuff happened. COVID happened during that time. We were trying to maintain safety for the people that worked for the authority. We had a change in leadership that happened, which was major for the authority. So we had to go into a hiring frenzy to get someone to be into that position that they are right now. And then we started trying to educate the community after that. And so if I had to come up with the one thing that I wish we could really hone into, is making it more accessible for folks to really know what it is without using all the big fancy college words.
And is there a new idea or policy or change that you would advocate for if you were elected to another term?
Sure. I'm continuing to work with reducing the storm water fees for everybody. I do believe that if we work really closely with our federal government, our state government, we may be able to find some extra funds out there which could help with our agenda that we have, and that is to make sure that when that water comes out of the sky, that it's flowing back to the Upmuggy River without causing harm or danger to any of our homes or our vehicles on the way. So working more closely with our senators, our congressmen, to see whether or not there is any maybe FEMA money that could be appropriated to our area would be a start, something that I definitely have already started communicating with one of the senator camps about at this time. So what I don't want it to happen is that we kind of lose the momentum that I've already started, in trying to get some relief for our community in respect to stormwater.
And your former Water Authority colleague, Desmond Brown, has been leveling accusations that Bill Howell had altered the district maps in order to include your new business on Cherry Street.
Right.
How would you like to address that?
I think that for the public, they need to understand that no one is doing anything wrong by buying property. I bought that property on Cherry Street to house my businesses. I have my chiropractic office, and then I also have a retail store. That was the whole point, was to start paying myself rent and not pay someone else, continue to pay someone else rent. I'm really not sure where that came from. We all were in the meeting together with the Middle Georgia Consortium. It never came up as it relates to any of the properties that I own here in Macon. And so it was kind of baffling for me when it came to out like it did, saying that it was something somebody was doing for me. This is a statement that I can make right now. I don't know Senator Kennedy. He doesn't know me to even vouch for me to be able to look at myself to like that, to even do something for me like that. I just really believe that it is a ploy to get attention, and so that people can hear what he has to say. But nobody did anything for me. I'm not that popular.
You have had a term now on the Water Authority. So what do you think that the public may not know or understand about you?
I don't know. I think that I've done a very good job of trying to stay community minded. I'm a part of a lot of different organizations that do a lot of good work here in Macon Bibb. I think that if I had to come up with one thing or one statement of something that people may not know, is that every Christmas, when we have the Anita Ponder Christmas feast down at the terminal station, it's me and my mama that's put that on every year, and we just are uplifting Anita's name with it, and we are proud to do so. But for the last 10 years of that project, me and my mother has been the one that has been securing funding, securing the place, getting the volunteers mobile to continue the legacy of that event. So people may not know that we're doing a lot of community-minded work out there outside of serving in this capacity.
And why do you think that you're the best candidate to represent District 1, and what would you tell voters about why you're better than your opponent in this position?
Sure. I believe that anytime that you're wanting to serve, especially serving in a capacity where we have millions of dollars, you need to come ready, prepared to understand how to run a business of that type of magnitude. You need to understand how to read pro formas. You need to understand how to read pension documents as it relates to investments, and making sure that they are right. I think most people really don't understand all of the requirements that it really takes to sit on a board of this magnitude. It's not just about voting yay or nay. It's about really understanding that at the end of the day, you're running a business. It is a business that needs to be ran properly, and we have fiduciary right to make sure that it is running at its best feasibility. And so if you don't have that kind of background, it's really not on-the-job training kind of position. You really need to understand some of those things, or do what it takes to understand those things. And I have a MBA in international business, so I came prepared to sit in that position. I'm from District 1. I've been born and raised. I was, like I stated before, in the district. So I am very passionate about the about the area, because that's what made me who I am, and I want to see that area be the jewel that it once was. And I am poised to be there. I know how you need to act and collaborate with others when you need to get something done. Just being on an island of one does not create change. You have to be able to communicate with all types of people from all different types of backgrounds, and I do have that business acumen and the personality to be able to do that, and to continue to do that for District 1.
Well, thank you so much for joining us today. I did want to let you know that we invited all the candidates to participate in today's discussion, but unfortunately, Ms. Jones' opponent, Eleanor Welch, was not able to be here for the interviews due to some health reasons, and also the MWA chairman candidate, Desmond Brown, did not respond to repeated attempts to schedule him for an interview as well. But we will be publishing candidate profiles before this election, so go to macon-newsroom.com to read more about the candidates for the Macon Water Authority. I'm Civic Journalism Senior Fellow Liz Fabian for the Center for Collaborative Journalism.